So earlier I spoke with Congressman Jim Himes, a Democrat of Connecticut and a member of the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman Himes, this email to Michael Cohen stating that he can, quote, sleep well tonight because he has, quote, friends in high places. I'm wondering how you interpret that.
Well, it points to a topic that I can't get into with great specificity, but which, as the press has reported, was a subject of some of the conversation with Michael Cohen when he was before the Intelligence Committee. And there are real questions, and this comes out, of course, from a lot that is public as well. There are real questions on the topic of pardon dangling. And again, I can't be terribly specific about it, but I think it is far from the end of that conversation. I think that when the Intelligence Committee transcripts are released, there will be some very uncomfortable days for a number of people, and there will be questions to follow up on.
So, again, as you said, you can't go into specifics, but you're saying based on what you've learned in your committee's investigation, can you say if you have a clearer picture of what actually happened here in regards to a pardon?
Well, you see a fairly clear picture emerging from what is public. The president's tweets alone, where he calls people who are cooperating rats and weak, and when he praises people who are not cooperating quite so much as strong. I mean, it's language right out of The Godfather. To answer your specific question, yes. Now, remember, Michael Cohen is not somebody whose testimony you take at face value. But if Michael Cohen were to produce emails, were he to produce written information that was corroborating, it would cause you to think maybe there's something to what he's saying. And as I said before, I think this is a story which has not been fully explained at all.
And that is the difficulty. I mean, Michael Cohen is a convicted liar. The president, has certainly lied and stretched the truth. And, we all know his record on that. With so many people with, difficulty telling the truth, is it even possible to figure out conclusively where the truth actually lies?
Sure it is, and I would point to Michael Cohen showing up and handing over checks signed by the president, backing up his statement that I was reimbursed by the president for paying hush money to Stormy Daniels. There is documentation, and again, I don't want to get into too much detail, but he provided documentation to the committee. These are people who communicate by email, they communicate by text, though the president does not, the president's people do. And again, I think there is much more to the story. That part of the reason, of course, we're being quiet about exactly what happened in the testimony of Michael Cohen is that his testimony and the information that he provided will probably cause us to call in some of those people. And we don't obviously want them to know exactly what Michael Cohen said prior to having the opportunity to speak to them.
And when does a transcript of the testimony get released? I mean, is it when all is said and done?
Well, unlike some of the other stuff from the Russia investigation, there's no question of classified material being released here because Michael Cohen, of course, didn't have access to classified material. So that won't be an impediment the way it is with the other transcripts or some of the other transcripts. Again, the one dynamic keeping these transcripts from being released right now is, and you can draw the conclusion, infer what you will from this, we will almost certainly want to bring in additional witnesses as a result of the testimony that Michael Cohen gave in the 2 days before my committee, and we won't necessarily want those witnesses to know exactly what it was that Michael Cohen provided or said about them.
And just lastly, I want to get your take on the other breaking story tonight. The former acting Attorney General Whitaker would not deny the president called him to discuss the Cohen case as well as personnel decisions in the Southern District, according to Congressman Nadler.
Yeah, that's correct. And I guess it surprises pretty much no one that Matthew Whitaker, when he was acting Attorney General, that he was acting in defense of the president. This is, of course, what an awful lot of the president's people have done. I think the president himself acknowledged that Whitaker's role was there, and certainly Whitaker made statements earlier that prior to his becoming Attorney General acting that would suggest that. So no surprise. Now, the big question, of course, is there's a difference between people talking about stuff and things actually being done. So the question for us as the body of government charged with oversight is, did the acting Attorney General take any actions which would have compromised any of the investigations of Trump or the Trump administration, or more broadly, the Russia question?
Congressman Himes, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Anderson.